Joe Biden has never had a huge grassroots fundraising base. He has had to rely much more on large donors. So as we think about what his political future may be, very important to consider what those donors think about what his political future should be. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen from CNBC. This is very noteworthy. Disney heiress, wealthy Democratic donors say they won't finance the party until Joe Biden drops out. They go on to indicate that Abigail Disney, who is the granddaughter of Roy Disney, who co-founded Walt Disney Company, told CNBC on Thursday she plans to withhold donations to the party she has funded for years until President Biden drops out of the race. And we are very fortunate to be joined this morning by Abigail Disney herself. Great to see you, Abigail.
Great to see you.
So just tell us what you are doing and what has brought you to this point.
Well, obviously, Biden's debate performance was incredibly upsetting. And part of the reason that this whole reaction has been so swift and so extreme is that the debate just confirmed the concerns we were already trying to look past. So it just seemed we'd passed the point of no return. And most of America felt the same way. I hate that the party is trying to convince us that we didn't see what we plainly saw.
Had you had any personal interactions with him at fundraisers or anything like that that had caused you for concern initially? Because some of the reporting we've seen is other donors say he only speaks off the teleprompter. It's only for 6 minutes. It's difficult to hear him, et cetera, et cetera. Those concerns were pushed aside by aides, and now they're sort of undeniable that there's a larger problem there.
Right. Well, this isn't based on any personal interactions I've had with him. I haven't, not since he was a senator. But I will say that just watching him walk from point A to point B, when he's going out to the helicopter, I can see in his gait that it's not a healthy gait. We've all had aging parents. I know what the signs are. And this is not to say that in this very distinct moment today, is he incapable of being president? He's asking for a 4-year job. And that's what we're talking about. And that's why we're so concerned.
Yeah.
Abigail, the last time that we spoke, we talked a lot about just like the impact of generational wealth and all of that. But I am curious because that appears now to be turned against you by President Biden and his White House. Let's put this up there on the screen from Ron Klain. He's the former chief of staff at the White House. He says, "We are the Democratic Party. These people," and he's referring to major Democratic donors, "don't get to decide to oust a pro-labor, pro-people president," almost framing this as some sort of class conflict. How do you see that? Because I know you're very conscientious about these things.
Yeah, it's rich, actually, coming from the very middle center of the mainstream Democratic Party, because we know that big donors have played just as big a role in that party as they have in the Republican Party. I don't like it that as one person, I can express my opinion on a phone call and have a phone call leaked, and then have this much of a hoopla thrown around the fact that I, just one person, have decided what I've decided. No single donor or no group of donors should ever have this kind of power. And we should all take away from this a lesson about we need to get the money out of politics. But as long as I have a platform, whether it's earned or not, I'm going to use it, because I feel us walking into a terrible, terrible election.
Well, Abigail, speaking of donors who probably have too much power, I recently interviewed Dimitri Melhorn, who I'm sure you're quite familiar with. And he privately and also publicly in our interview is one of the most steadfast defenders of Biden staying in the race. I wanted to play a little clip from that interview and get your reaction to it. Let's roll F4 here.
Joe Biden is haunted by the fact that in 2016, he listened to these arguments. Mm-hmm. And he's right. We were all wrong. If he'd run in 2016, we would not be here. A lot of people, not us as much this time, but a lot of people made those same arguments to him in 2020. He stubbornly resisted all of them. And he saved us. I mean, it is very plausible, given how close that was, that anybody else, if our theory of Biden's brand is correct, that was it. So all of these arguments came at him in 16. He listened. The world suffered grievously. All of these arguments came at him in 2020. He refused to listen. The world benefited tremendously. America now has the strongest economy of the world. We are powering the world economy. We are leading the free world against Russian aggression because he refused to listen to these arguments. So right now, who is he going to listen to? I believe that fundamentally, he is going to listen to voters.
What he goes on to say is that if the polls plummet, then maybe he'll drop out. But as long as the polls are within, the margin of error, 3 to 4 points, that he's going to stick around. How common is the view that Dimitri just shared, kind of among donors at this point? Is he in the wilderness?
But I haven't heard many donors express that point of view. I mean, what I'm hearing is almost unanimous. I do have to say, all I could think while I was watching him talk was, I wish we could all have such a high opinion of ourselves that we could take that long to express not a very complicated set of ideas. The fact is that he's got too much of a platform. I've got too much of a platform. There's no question these last 4 years have been great, and we're really pleased with him. But this is not the same, for instance, as some faux pas or some gaffe at a debate. This is a problem that gets worse every single day. If we were accusing him of being a 12-legged squid, he could come out tomorrow and prove that he's not a 12-legged squid, right? But he can't come out and say, I'm not getting older, because obviously that's just what happens with the passage of time. And so if he is displaying weakness now today, if he is really looking that weak in comparison to the opponent, I don't think that time is on his side. I do think it is. I'm sorry, but this extreme high opinion, white, powerful men tend to have of themselves that keeps him in the running here. And I would suggest he go read King Lear.
Mm-hmm. Well, one final question from me, at least, is, this is sort of hypothetical, but we're hearing more and more potentially about a Parkinson's situation or something like that. And the name on everybody's mind is Kamala Harris. What is your calculation in terms of where your money goes if it turns out that people like Kamala Harris, other high-level Democrats, but let's just specifically talk about Kamala Harris, knew something? Does that still, do you continue to say, I cannot donate to a campaign that is headed by a candidate, for instance, Kamala Harris, who knew about this and just went along with it? How would that factor into your decision for the rest of this cycle?
Look, I admire Kamala Harris today more than I did even last week. And I've always admired her greatly because I think she has demonstrated what a team player she is and how she's not going to go public against her own president. Good for her. And she's articulated an incredible defense of the president based on the facts at hand. I don't think there's a cover-up because the fact is he's just aging right out there, and whether it's Parkinson's or anything else, it doesn't happen, overnight. So we know that this is a process of deterioration that we're watching. We know that the people closest to him are very protective of him, in part because he's a lovely man. He's a very nice, decent man. But unfortunately, it was hard for me to get the car keys away from my mother when she had Alzheimer's. And, it broke everybody's heart. But, this is too important. The stakes are just too high.
Abigail, are you coordinating with others, or is this just you out there on your own? And how do you see this process ultimately playing out?
I am really out here on my own. There are other donors I talk to privately, but I actually think I'm just going to express myself and use my platform the way I can and hope that it contributes to what seems to be a growing chorus of voices. And I hope and I pray that the Democratic Party is going to see fit to do the right thing. Part of me wonders if maybe what they're doing at the White House actually is buying a little time to create a bit of a smoother hand. But, what I'm really heartened by is the election in Paris or in France yesterday, because, that's what the Democratic Party has to do. There's a common enemy. The common enemy is terrifying. And we have to recognize that no matter what, in November, we have to get behind blocking the common enemy and making sure the Democrats, whoever it is, win the election this time.
And I lied. I do have one final question, which is, sorry. Are there politicians, elected politicians, that you have spoken with who have similarly expressed concerns?
I have not. I'm kind of deliberately not doing that because I think I get this crazy platform. I haven't earned it, but I'll just use it to speak publicly in my own mind. I'm not using it to try to quietly influence anybody behind the scenes.
Got it.
Well, Abigail, certainly grateful for your time this morning and for using your platform to speak out. So thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you.
Thank you, Abigail.
Bye.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.